Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Guy Tennell, and I was forewarned that when I came up here with this shirt on, that I would probably alienate at least 50% of y'all. So I apologize. I will pray for you if you are not Seminole fans. After our last committee meeting, I had an occasion to call one of my fellow committee members and explain to him how in the world did I, of all people, get in this position that I'm in. And he reminded me of the first sermon by our pastor a few years ago. It just so happened. And I can't help but think that it just so happened that we are in the position we're in, that my fellow committee members have been appointed accordingly, and that God's got this and He's got us, and whatever may happen, it's my prayer that we would follow His will and not ours. I want to thank my fellow committee members, Elaine Brown, Dick Hall, Heather Howell, Ruthie McLean, Rudy Olivo, Ron Penton, Andrea Whitaker, Pastor Craig, and myself. Pastor Craig and I co-chaired this committee. We have, as provided to you, a list of options for either staying in or leaving the United Methodist Church. Another issue that we identified was the possibility of joining another denomination. That discussion is scheduled for October the 16th at 10:45 in this facility. So please, I would caution you to limit your comments, if you have any, to simply address the issue of whether to leave or stay within the United Methodist Churches. Our committee identified those following considerations for our congregation to review. And I assure you, from the somewhat lively discussions that we had over these issues, this was accomplished through an extensive amount of research, discussion, and assuredly much prayer by our members of the committee. This list is by no means an all-inclusive list, meaning that you may either disagree with where certain factors have been assigned, either pro or con. Through your own individual research, you may find other factors that you wish to consider. Or lastly, you may simply think that we have lost our ever-loving minds and shouldn't even be on this committee. Hopefully that's not the case. I would like to read the list now as presented by the committee for considerations for our congregation to consider. Reasons for staying in the UMC: a rich history of denomination and a proven track record. Number two, an established organizational structure. Number three, Connectionalism with denominational, annual conference, and other churches. Number four, current doctrine and discipline remains unchanged at this time, including the stance on human sexuality. Number five, accountability structures in place for churches and pastors. Number six, pastoral succession through the appointment system. Number seven, you can monitor and provide input to the future of the United Methodist Churches. Number eight, avoids discussions about division and dissension. Number nine, no significant changes to church operations until 2024 at the earliest, which would be when the next general conference convenes. Number 10, no disaffiliation costs. Currently, It's estimated that our cost to disaffiliate would be $803,000, plus or minus some change. Those numbers are kind of fluid at this point, and I think Craig will maybe talk about those a little later. Considerations for disaffiliating from the United Methodist churches. Number one, probable shift in theology and social stances in a more progressive direction. Number two, continued dissension and division, especially at the denominational level. Number three, potential increase in disaffiliation costs after 12/31/23, and they may be difficult to determine it even at that point. Number four, trust clause governs church property and assets. Number five, bureaucratic structure that lacks accountability and includes guaranteed pastoral appointments. Number six, less local church autonomy and authority, including apportionments imposed from the top down. Number seven, uncertain future about the denomination. Already in rapid decline, questions about UMC in Africa currently exist, and the future of the UMC in Africa. Number eight, possibility of punitive action against traditionalist pastors and churches. Number nine, bishops, lifetime appointments, and increasing power and or authority, and certainly uncertainty about our own pastor or our own bishop as to whether or not he'll remain in that position. Number 10, possible retirement, resignation of our current pastors if the body of discipline changes in May of 2024. Craig will now talk about the timeline that we're faced with in the church.
Yeah. Let me, before I do that, just we intend that each one of these meetings, we had a meeting July 31st, and each one of these town halls kind of builds upon the others. That's why we gave you the notes. If you weren't here, I hope you will look at those notes from July 31st. But we understand that the things that we put here kind of presupposes some knowledge of what's going on. And so if you have questions about that, that's what we're here for today, to answer those questions. I did want to just mention a couple because a guy said I might address it, but just this idea, the reason that we are talking about disaffiliation right now is that there is a window from now until December 31st, 2023, where we can disaffiliate and keep our property. There is a trust clause in the United Methodist Church that our buildings, our assets don't belong to us. They're held in trust for the denomination, but we can be released from that from now till December 31st, 2023, if we will pay some exit fees. That's 2 years of apportionments, which for us is about $200,000, and then also paying unfunded liabilities for pastors in terms of their retirement and medical benefits. Not knowing how long people live, you never know how much it's going to take to pay my pension, or if Terry goes to the retirement, his pension, or Rudy or Elaine was a local pastor. Y'all understand that. And so we have to look at some worst cases. We want to make sure we take care of those people. And so those are constantly being updated based on market conditions, churches that are disaffiliating. Every time a pastor gets out, then we don't have to worry about funding his or her liability. Y'all follow that? So the last meeting we had in July, that figure was $1,083,000. It was recalculated in July, and that now is $803,000, and it will stay that until January 1st of 2023. There'll be a new number given to us by the annual conference then, and then another new number on July 1st of 2023. Okay, so I think that's the main things that I wanted to say. Again, we're here to answer your questions about what do these things mean. Also, I want to make it really clear that as we put together this list, we talked about them being pros and cons. We understood that what's a pro for one person might be a con for another. Y'all follow that? So we called them considerations, understanding that some things that are in that top category might be, for some of us, reasons to stay. For some of us, we say, well, that's a reason to leave. We're not going to argue that one. You all figure out which pool it needs to go to. Just know that there's plenty of room for discussion there. We've had a lot of it among these committee members. And so we're here, though, again, to answer your questions about it. Let me just, before we take those questions, look at this timeline. First one I would say is your pastor, and Terry, as your other pastor, we would say the biggest, most important thing on that timeline is the first one. It's just time to pray about this process and everything going on in the life of our church. I believe that God's got the answer. All we have to do is ask and listen, and He'll give it to us. There will be another town hall meeting. I guess that would be, 4 weeks from today, October 16th, same time, same place. We'll talk about the virtues, the considerations of remaining or of becoming an independent church if we were to disaffiliate, of becoming an independent church, and also the considerations about joining another denomination. Okay? And then there will also be a third town hall meeting. That one will not be led by our congregation, by your pastors, or by this committee. That will be led by our district superintendent, Gene Tippett. And for any churches that are where we're at right now, just considering disaffiliation, the annual conference has asked that we have a town hall meeting so the district superintendent can come and share what she wants to share about whether to stay or whether to leave and the virtues of that. Okay? We think at that time, once we've held those town hall meetings, it will be time for us to make a recommendation from this team, and it will then be given to the church council for their action. Okay? If we anticipate, this is again just our current timeline, if there were, hear this, if the committee and the church council were both to recommend that we disaffiliate, then we would have another town hall meeting that we anticipate having in January, where we could get, again, your feedback to that decision and how we arrived at that conclusion. And then if we were to disaffiliate, there would be a church conference that would be held on Monday, February 27th. That's already scheduled with the district superintendent. I shared at the information meeting. The reason that's already scheduled, even though we don't know, is because there's dozens and can potentially be up to 150, 200 churches disaffiliating. And a district superintendent has to preside over that town hall plus the church conference, and time is just running out. Some of the district superintendents don't have an open date until after springtime next year. So we just got on the calendar. We'll give Gene a free night if we choose not to disaffiliate.